Welcome to Civil War Digital Digest. I'm Will. Welcome to the second in a three-part series of stitches that you can use to better improve your reproduction federal blankets. Today we're going to look at the blanket stitch. Why? Well, every federal blanket, when you shrink them, will start to fray out on the edges. We shot the content a few weeks ago talking about how to care for this. Let's join that conversation. Of course, with family heirloom weavers doing the weaving, the selvage or the edge that's solid looks fantastic and works just like a period blanket would work. Their looms are set up properly for that. Now, the raw edge. What do? What did they do? Well, what they did is they got issued a blanket from the government. So they didn't care. They marched with the blanket, slept with the blanket. We're paying over $200 for a blanket. Here is an acceptable option. First off, go ahead, just leave it, let it wear like it's going to wear. Totally a good option. You're going to get fraying at the edges. You're going to get pieces coming off. You'll probably see that right away when you go ahead and pre-shrink your blanket and soak it. You're going to see some coming off. I'd like to protect this blanket. What I'm going to do is what's called a blanket stitch. Most of us who do hand sewing have learned four major stitches: running stitch, back stitch, whip stitch, and buttonhole stitch. If you know the buttonhole stitch, you pretty much know the blanket stitch. Let's look at it. To get the yarn to do this, since my blanket was fraying, I gently worked a couple of lines of the weft of the fabric out that were already coming off and kept them, clipped them, and let's go ahead and do this. I've threaded up a needle with some of that. I'm going to go to the corner of my blanket. I'm going to come in several threads past where the current fraying ends, and I'm going to set my knot in there. Then I'm going to come back up pretty much to the same. This is just to get it going. And once I come through with my needle, I'm going to take the thread and I'm going to wrap it around the needle, and then I'm going to pull the needle out and pull it toward the end of the fabric that we're working with. So I'm going to come up and in, and I want my needle to come up and in back further in where the fabric seems to be a little bit stronger. Once I'm through, I'm going to take the thread closest to my needle and I'm going to wrap it around the needle, and I'm going to pull through and toward the frayed edge. Again, we're going to come up and in, loop, and pull towards the frayed edge. We're just building this line of strength from this separate thread that's going to hold the bottom of the blanket together or bind it. I'm going to go ahead and shove my needle in. I'm going to go a thread or two into where the weaving becomes solid again. If I just put it out in the frayed edge, that's not going to help me. I want to get a little bit in to where the fabric has some integrity again. I'm going to take the thread that's coming through the needle, wrap it around the needle, pull it out, and carefully pull that tight. And we see a little bit of the frayed edge coming out, and it sometimes gets a little fussy to work with, but we're just looking to go ahead and add some stability to the blanket so it doesn't fray out on us and go further. We're also holding the weft threads or the cross threads in place, binding them to themselves. And again, the biggest thing that I've found with doing these is to go ahead and make sure the direction that you pull the thread when you tighten is going to matter. If I pull back this direction, I'm going to pull that purl or that loop up to the top of the stitch. That's not going to help me very much. I want it down here. I want this thread dancing along the bottom of my blanket, protecting my blanket, and keeping more of it from fraying. People are going to ask me, hey, Will, how many stitches per inch? Well, first off, I'm going to be honest and say that since we're doing this as a way to protect the blanket, I don't have one of the original blankets to say, hey, we went ahead and measured it. My gut and my instinct as I've been watching this happen, as I've been preparing for this episode, 3 to 4 stitches an inch are going to do you really well. You're going to have enough thread looped at the bottom and enough stitches to stop the fraying. If the thread runs out, I don't have enough to go all the way across, that's fine. I'm just going to tie a nice knot right in here. And keep it just as close to the blanket as I can so we don't have it sticking out. And then I will clip that load up a fresh piece of thread, and keep going. Thank you for spending your time with Civil War Digital Digest. We hope these stitch education videos are helping you care for your reproduction blanket and forge a stronger connection to the American Civil War. To our patrons, thank you so much for your financial support. It's making more and more of this possible. We'll see everybody in a couple of weeks.